So I'm 14 months into my medical transition, over 2.5 years socially transitioning. And I've told my story before, but not in great detail. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about growing up, what I was feeling, how I came to be, how I started only transitioning a couple of years ago in my early 60s. Thank God I don't look it, huh? So, anyway, here's the situation with me. And maybe my mother will see this someday and it could help explain to her why I'm the way I am, because she's having issues with it right now. But I can remember going back at least until I was 5 years old, and I'm only guesstimating here. I knew I was very young, but I felt something was off. I kept thinking, why wasn't I born a girl? I should have been born a girl. And I didn't understand it. Now, I know a lot of other trans women have various degrees of gender dysphoria growing up, how hard it hits them through their teenage years and whatnot. But I also grew up in a period of time where there was no such thing as the word transgender. There was transvestites, not talked about hardly at all, some transsexuals. Again, understand, you couldn't find this information. So I just knew that, oh no, I shouldn't feel this way. It's wrong. And I bottled it up. I didn't try to play with Barbies or dress up or anything like that. I tried being a normal boy growing up. And for the most part, I was successful to an extent. I was never overly masculine. I played with my guy friends, yeah. Um, but yet, this always gnawed at me. I would have dreams of waking up one day and being a girl. And it would excite me. And yet I felt like it was wrong because it was not part of society. I was deathly afraid of anybody finding out, my parents, even my brothers. I don't I kept it to myself. And I think that was part of the cause of my severe depression growing up. I had what they called clinical depression through most of my life. But when I was young, and oh God, when I hit puberty, incredibly emotional outbursts, crying all the time. And I can look back in hindsight and realize it's because I was living a lie. I was living a life that was expected of me. So I just dealt with it, drove my parents crazy, drove my whole extended family crazy. They didn't want anything to do with my twin and I. He was this way too, for different reasons. So going through puberty, hitting my teenage years, it really started to hit me. And I would do what most of the guys with gender dysphoria had growing up. I would raid my mother's closet when I was home alone, trying things on and loving the feel of of the clothing. And there was a mild sexual thrill to it because it's puberty and it's new and whatnot, but it didn't dominate what I was feeling. But again, it felt like I was doing wrong, almost something dirty. I wasn't, but kept suppressing it and went through my 20s, tried to date, always failed miserably. I didn't date at all, hardly in my 20s. Nobody wanted anything to do with me because I think I was a little too feminine, a little too emotional, also a little too needy. I admit that. Uh, I had a couple of experiences. You can't call them girlfriends, but I had a couple experiences in my 20s. And then going into my 30s, I always felt it. And that's when I discovered the internet in the mid 90s. AOL, dial up, chat rooms, and I started going into the CD cross-dressing rooms because at the time I started to think maybe I'm just a cross-dresser, even though I haven't worn women's clothing in years at that point. But I would go in, and that was when I first came up with my name, Melissa, the way I spell it now, which is now legal. I just was living and talking to a community and wishing I could be a part of it. And it wasn't until about another 5 years later, when I moved to New Jersey, that I finally had an opportunity to express myself and start cross dressing, and enjoyed it, felt good. And I always had this confidence that I had no problem going out. I would go to some clubs in the city that were, for CDs and trans. There was a support group for trans people. I joined that to meet people. And what I found when I was there is that, it was a support group. And so many of the other ladies there were having issues at home with their wives or girlfriends, not understanding what they're going through. And they needed the support. And I realized really quickly, I didn't. I was comfortable with who I was, and I got bored. It was held in a hotel conference room. I would go downstairs while they were all having therapy, go down to the bar, order some drinks in public, and I wasn't afraid. I wasn't ashamed of it. Made for always, I always make friends with the bartenders. Couples would come up and sit at the bar, and I talk to them. Some of the other girls from upstairs would come down, and I talk with them because I love being social. After a while, I stopped going to this support group because I just didn't need it. Now, here comes the really big change. And this is something I've talked with my therapist about. And I don't understand how I was able to do this, because growing up all my life, those feelings were always there. And when I was experimenting, that's when I met my soon to be wife. And she was supportive. She would go out with me to these clubs in the cities. We'd go out to restaurants sometimes in public, and she was openly supportive until we got serious and started talking marriage. All of a sudden, that support dried up. And I will admit, she never actually said the words, "You need to stop." But I felt it coming from her, that energy coming from her. But she hit me at a time where I was bored with cross dressing. It wasn't doing anything for me anymore. It was just there, and I wasn't getting a thrill out of it. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I was bored and didn't know what to feel. And then when it became clear that my wife didn't want it to be part of the marriage, I stuffed it away. I purged. I got rid of everything. And I said, okay, well, I finally went through that phase. I lived it, and I got it out of my system, thinking because I cross dressed for a few years, that was it. Now I felt totally fine. And I went the next almost 19 years believing I was over it. I had convinced myself so thoroughly that I was over it, I never thought about dressing again. My wife did, though. She was always afraid that one day I'd want to dress again. And she would ask me about it. She goes, well, do you ever think about dressing again? And I could see the apprehension on her face that she was worried I'd say yes. And I was honest. I said, no, that's my past. I'm done with it. And of course, she would sigh a big sigh of relief. But during our whole marriage, there were issues. I could have been a better husband. I admit it. I didn't feel like a husband, though. I did not really fully take on the full male, masculine husband role, which left my wife feeling a little left out, a little put out at times. And not to get into the sex life, but I did not fully get into or enjoy sex. And I never understood why. I had a very low libido, which now I think I understand why, because since I've been testing for it these last few years, my natural libido is totally in the toilet. Now, some of that might have happened because I am older. We know what happens to men, their testosterone levels go down. Mine was in the toilet, but I felt this way most of my life. I did not have a high sex drive. So I had very few experiences throughout my life before getting married. And again, my wife was very traditional. So there was no real experimentation. It was the same every time, but I was bored with it. She got a little bored with it. Then she had some issues. She had to have a hysterectomy. We instantly put her through the change, and her libido went. So we would go months. Sometimes one time we even went a year without being together. And those times when we were together, I found it kind of a chore. I wasn't I wasn't excited about being a man in that position. So I going through my life, I was mostly attracted to women. I felt some bi tendencies. I mean, when I was in high school with this whole gender dysphoria thing, I actually thought maybe I was gay, but I wasn't attracted to guys. So I didn't understand what was going on. So I just pushed it off. I just had a little sex drive. And it's funny now because I talk to friends, guy friends from back then who were all horn dogs. They were all getting it everywhere they could. Not me. So it was very confusing times. And I still, even through my marriage, dealt with depression. I finally got on depression medication. And sometimes it helped, sometimes it didn't. I'd have to get on some other medications. And I'm still on a cocktail now that I don't want to be on. But I'm afraid to get off of it because I'm afraid of, I don't want that depression coming back. Now, my wife and I had some hard times. We did separate once for a year. We reconciled. I came back, but we never really got things back. We still had some issues. Uh, and it was tough. It was tough. But then going on over, wow, 3 years ago, she suddenly one night had a massive stroke and died at only age 53. And then I suddenly found myself alone and going through grief and all of that. But for some reason, it took about 3 months, I think, maybe going into four, when I started to think about dressing again. And it started to hit me. And because I was so much older at that point in time, 59 years old, actually just turned 60, I was very scared of it. I was scared of the fact that were these feelings the last 19 years or so? How was I able to bury it? And then I thought, well, maybe I'll try dressing a little bit. But if I look too much like a guy in a dress, if I look like shit, I'm going to stop right then and there. At least that's what I told myself. And I bought some clothes. My wife had some leftover things that fit me. I tried it, looked in the mirror, and I was surprised. I was surprised that I liked what I saw. Needed work, but I liked it and started doing it more. I talked to some friends, made some friends who were CDs, I met some people online through some streaming services. I was doing some streaming and talking and meeting people. And that's when it hit me, the whole thing about transgender. I'd been hearing about it for a few years, but that's when it hit me that that's what I was, that I was suppressing this all my life. So what I did was, they always say, never make any big decisions for up to a year after um, a major loss or lifestyle change or some kind of trauma. Give yourself a year to get past it and don't rush into anything. So that's exactly what I did. I took a year. I was still dressing and going out to places. I met, there was a CD group. I started hanging out with them maybe once a month and doing the online streaming, meeting people. But, I did not make any big decisions. But then when that year came up and coming into 2024, I had met the trans friend who's now my big sister in the Vanity Club, which I was just became a member of in March when I was at Keystone. She was telling me about this herbal supplement, Puraria mirifica, which is a plant based out of Thailand that has qualities, feminizing qualities. It's not exactly estrogen, but it does kind of act like estrogen. So I started taking it and I was on it for a year and I couldn't believe it smoothed my face out. All my wrinkles were gone. Um, and things started to grow. And I was surprised by that. And then I reached this point. I'd lost my job in 2023. I've been trying to get work. I couldn't get work. The job market sucks. They changed my industry. Now it's all AI. And I was a corporate recruiter, and most recruiters that I know from back then were out of work too. So I had a lot of time in my hands. So I thought about it, and I made the decision I'm going to get on hormones. The second I made that decision, I can't tell you the weight that was lifted off my shoulders. I was smiling. I was happy. I wasn't even on hormones yet. But the fact that I made the decision to move forward with it was a game changer. So I found a doctor who works with a group here in New Jersey called the LGBTQ Alliance, and they work specifically with the lettered community. And he's a primary care physician, so I can see him for anything. But again, I went in and had the interview and the consultation about doing hormones. And he very quickly agreed that he thought I was trans. So he prescribed the hormones. And I first started them 14 months ago yesterday. And they started me off on the patches, which is a low dose. And right away, I was feeling things. Things were developing. My face smoothed out more. My breasts started growing a little bit. But he warned me too. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It's a slow process. Give it time. And like most trans women, I was impatient. But I was on the patches for 6 months, but the adhesive on the patch was tearing up my skin. So I complained about it. They switched me to injectables, which I really wanted anyway. He wouldn't put me on pills because the pills going through being processed by the liver makes you a little bit more prone to blood clots. And since I had open heart surgery a couple years before, that they wanted to be cautious on that. So I started on the hormones, but the first 3 months, things have felt off. And I see him every 3 months. We do blood work and then we reevaluate. And it felt off. First of all, my libido came back. big time. I'm going, where the hell were you throughout most of my life? But I didn't feel like anything else was happening. And then when I went in for my blood work, they found that my estrogen level was way down. My T level was way up, still low, but way up. So they increased my dose. We've been playing with it and adjusting it. Well, once they adjusted it, things started to get better. And then my last visit, um, they increased it more, and I'm really feeling it now. The changes on estrogen are just amazing. And I don't have to take a testosterone blocker because my natural T levels are still way below normal, which I'm very happy about. But because I was taking the Pureria mirifica, he even admitted I had a head start. And I feminized very quickly. The only thing that I really needed to do was grow my hair out, which I still am. This is like mostly a year here with a couple of little trims in between, stylist playing with it, shaping it to let it grow in longer. I mean, my goal is to get down to here if I can. And, I've got a little bit of receding, but I'm taking a medication, finasteride, which is supposed to help with hair growth, a little bit of Rogaine, a little bit of the rosemary shampoos, biotin, doing what I can to naturally get my hair thicker and longer. And it's growing longer. Now it's growing faster, which I love. Um, I love the feminizing effect. My skin is so soft now. I have little to no body hair at all. I was never hairy to begin with. Again, another thing why testosterone, I think, was always low in me. I was never hairy. And I'm even less that way. I have no chest hair, no nothing, just a little bit on my arms and legs. And even now, it's just light, very, very light. I can shave my legs and they're good for a couple weeks. It's awesome. I put out a video couple months ago because what I was doing is every monthly anniversary on the 12th of each month, I would take a still photo of my face because I wanted to chronicle my journey on HRT, on estrogen. And so in the very beginning, my hair is short, but here's what's funny. That first photo, which was taken, I hadn't even started estrogen yet. The first photo showed my face looking very feminine compared to the year and a half before. Right after my wife passed, I had taken a photo of myself. I had much more deeper lines. I had not a super masculine face, but a much more masculine face. So even on month 0, my face was smoothed out and starting to look feminine. So anyway, I made this TikTok video with pictures, one of every month, showing my progression from month 0 all the way to 1 year, 12 months. And in that time, and these are the kind of comments I got. In that time, people kept saying that by the 3rd month, they just saw my smile lighten up. My eyes were glowing. I mean, my face was glowing. These are their comments, and how much happier I looked. I've had people look at my first picture and they go, "What is this? Is this a woman transitioning to be a man?" Because I still already looked a little feminine. No, and then they saw real quickly. I got, I can't tell you how many views I got on that video. Well, yes, I can, and it's still going. 2 months later, I've got almost a 500,000 views, 474,000 views on that video. My next closest video, I think I've gotten 5,000. One maybe I think I got almost 10,000. But that video just went viral, went like wildfire. But you see the differences. And you know what? Month 13 and now month 14, I'm still taking pictures. I'm going to do a 2-year anniversary video. to see how far I've come next year at this time. Some of the changes on HRT, the other changes you get are the brain, your mind, the chemicals, the chemical balances are geared more towards a female brain. I got girl brain. My thoughts are clearer than they've ever been. I mean, I still suffer from CRS, mostly because of my age. For those of you who don't know, CRS means can't remember shit. But yet at the same time, I can think clearly. I can analyze things more clearly, which is strange because being analytical was mostly considered a guy thing. But no, I got very much more analytical, but much more emotional. Oh my God, I cry at the drop of a hat. You see some of these videos on Facebook or TikTok, Instagram of like people and animals. Oh my God, I'm bawling like a baby. I follow a lot of other trans content creators online, and most of them are younger. Most of them are in their 20s, some in their 30s, few in their 40s. And I stop to think sometimes, I mean, some of these women are just absolutely freaking gorgeous. And they'll look better than I ever will because I think I got such a late start in life. And I sometimes think, should I have, if I had the chance, would I have transitioned earlier in life, let's say in my 20s or even my 30s? Well, first of all, that wasn't an option because I had no idea what transitioning was. Um, so that was a no-brainer. I didn't know about it, so I didn't do it. And I was still kind of hiding it in the closet, not knowing what I was feeling. But here's another reason why I'm glad I did not transition earlier. I wasn't mature enough. I couldn't have handled it back then. I still would have been an emotional mess. And quite frankly, I went through a lot of shit in my life. A lot of shit in my life. I did a lot of stupid things. I did things because of my depression, because I was feeling needy, and nobody really understood me, and I didn't even understand myself. So here's the other side of that. Every single one of those experiences, good and especially bad, every bad experience I had molded me into who I am today. Everything, even my marriage, the good times, the bad times, then losing her and going through that deep grief. And I lost my twin brother too. He died 10 years ago from a massive heart attack. So I lost my identical twin. So the two most important people in the world that were close to me passed away. And telling me, I'll tell you, that really messes with your head. And at the same time, again, it changed me for the better. I'm I get afraid saying this because I don't want people to judge me harshly for this, which I really don't care because I really don't care what people think of me. But um, when my wife passed, it took a couple months and then I realized I'm free. I have nothing holding me back. She held me back because she didn't really want me to experience this. Now I had nothing holding me back. I have no family here where I live. My family's across the country, and I see them maybe once a year. So even up until this past September, when I went out there and visited for a month, and I was already in the middle of my medical transition, but I had to wear around my mother. I had to wear what was left of my guy clothes, so she wouldn't know. Although the only thing that she noticed was she grabbed my hair and she goes, "What's this?" Because it was growing so long. And then she accused me of dyeing it. This is my real color. I don't dye my hair, and I don't have any gray in my head at all. It's like, yes. Um, but see, I had come out to my older brother before I went out there because I was going to stay with them for a month. He had back surgery, needed help. His wife had to go back to work, so she couldn't be there to help him. And so I was there, but I let them know I came out to them. Now, I've told this story before. They were very politically right wing, almost QAnon level right wing. And when I had been out there in the past, they had talked a lot of shit about trans people before. And this was under the last administration when there was a lot of these activists and people that were, in my opinion, misbehaving and giving us a bad name. But it still hurt to hear their comments. They say all these people are mentally ill. And I was fuming. I almost left. I almost got in my car and went home, which is a 2-day drive. I just sucked it up for that time. Now, when I went out this last year, they knew. They were totally cool with it. They're accepting of me. I was able to wear my regular clothes, my i.e. feminine clothes, around them. No problem. Had talks with them about it, especially my sister-in-law. I mean, she's almost, more political than my brother, but yet she and I could have long talks about it. It was great. I could not have asked for a better reaction from them. But we still decided not to tell my mother yet. Because my mother was 89 years old and very old school. And I knew, growing up with her, I knew for a fact she wasn't going to be accepting of this. Why do you think I kept it hid for so long? My father passed away 18 years ago, so I don't know what his reaction would be, but I know what my mother's was going to be. Well, I finally realized I had to tell my mother because when I came back from that trip, I started living full time. I was kind of living full time before that, but I really was living full time after that until now. And I realized that if I ever go out there again, she's going to need to know. So in January, I finally talked to her and let her know. And she surprised me at first because she didn't act shocked. She said, just so you know, you are always loved, no matter what. And whatever makes you happy in your life, that's fine. And I thought, great. I like dodged a bullet. No. She at the end of that phone call, she said, just do me one favor. She goes, I don't ever want to see you in a dress. I like, okay, and just kind of placated her because I didn't want to push it too far. And I said, well, okay. Being the smartass I am, thinking in my mind, well, I could, wear a blouse and a pantsuit or a skirt, or there's all sorts of different combinations that weren't a dress. But then I found out from my older brother, because I called and warned him. I said, hey, just so you know, I talked to mom and she's going to be calling you. Well, she did. And that's when I found out how upset she really was. She does not want to see this in any way. She wants her son. And that hit me pretty hard. I had to think about that for a bit. My brother offered to show her pictures and she refused. She didn't want to see it at all. She says it would upset me too much. Yeah. So I started thinking, well, what do I do? Do I go out there and just dress as my old self just to please her? very quickly I started saying to myself, no, I'm not going to do that. I am not going to be something other than myself in front of anybody. And it's to the point where if my mother can't handle seeing me, she's not going to see me. Now, we haven't discussed it yet. Um, we talked on Mother's Day, but the next time we talk, I'm going to let her know, by the way, I'm not coming out this year. Now, I've been going out there every year for the last few years, late summer, early fall. But I'm going to tell her I'm not coming out this year. And I have a couple of other valid reasons because I've been out there every year. I want to do something different. I want to go travel some other places, do some things, be me. And but then I'm also going to tell her also because you don't want to see me. And yeah, I'll let her know. I knew she doesn't want to see a picture of me. And if she can't handle who I am now, I'm not a drag queen. I'm just everyday life me. I mean, this is more than the casual I usually wear because I'm recording a podcast and I'm doing an interview for my other podcast in a little bit. So I'm just going to have to so I'm just going to be honest with her and say, you don't want to see me. I'm not going to waste a trip coming out there. I'm not going to compromise my principles or compromise who I am. Now, she's going to flip. My brother and I both agree. She is going to absolutely flip and be totally upset, crying and everything else. But you know what? I don't feel too bad about it because here's why. My brother brought this point up and I give him kudos. It was a good point. She may get upset, but then it gives her time to think about it. I've planted the bug in her ear and we'll see how it goes in the next few months. Will she start to come around and soften? She does not want to cut me off. She absolutely doesn't want to cut me off. She already lost my brother, my twin brother. She's not going to totally never talk to me again. But if she wants to see me, we're going to have to find common ground. I don't mind dressing very casual, but it's still, I'm obviously a woman. And she may get upset about that. She lives in this apartment building where I've been several times, and my brother mentioned that maybe I'd have to meet her somewhere on neutral ground because she'd be embarrassed if the other people saw me and figured things out. I know that's messed up. I'm the first to admit it's messed up. But here's the thing. I would meet her on neutral ground and let it all sink in because she's going to be 90 this year. She's in good health, but she's 90. And I love my mother. Love her for all of her faults. And she is a pain in my ass. But I don't want to lose her in my life. If she ever made the decision, well, I can't ever see you again, I would say, okay, that's your decision, not mine. And she might come around later. Or she'll grudgingly see me, get upset about it later, but again, she's going to have to get used to it or not. I can't force this on anybody who doesn't want to accept it. I mean, my former sister-in-law, she accepted it in the beginning until she couldn't for the exact same reasons as she wanted her brother-in-law back. That person's gone. I mean, I've moved forward in my transition. I've made videos on this too. I'm covering a lot that I've already covered before, but just wanted to put it all in one video. Last month, I had my name legally changed. And now I'm officially Melissa Lee. I dropped the family name, which was a very common name. If you saw Blazing Saddles, you know the name I'm talking about. But it never resonated with me. And I just like the way Melissa Lee rolls off off the tongue. It sounds like a stage name. So since I do podcasting in any way, again, it is kind of like a stage name, and I like it. And I spelled it differently, but it's the same name I picked 30 years ago. It's been with me this whole time. So now, as of today, 14 months into medically transitioning, here I am. And things are so strange right now because of the climate we're currently living in. The political climate is just nuts. What's happening at the state level everywhere, and even the federal government, the counterterrorism thing that just came out for 2026, labeling radical transgender ideology as potential domestic terrorists. What? Are you fucking kidding me? I don't let things like that make me afraid. I'm not afraid. I don't like it. I'm going to speak out about it. And I know this shit will hopefully go away in the next couple of years. But until then, we're going to be dealing with turbulent times. Nothing is going to stop me from being me. Nothing. Some people are afraid, they're going to cause genocide. They're going to lock us up in insane asylums. Well, I'd like to see them try, because I do more than kick and scream. I'm just going to live my life. I hate the P word, but I have the privilege of living in a very blue state that just also recently passed some pro transgender. I don't know if it was actual legislation or they just affirmed the fact that they support transgender rights. So I'm fairly safe in this state. Although I know at the federal level, they're trying to do away with every kind of gender affirming care for adults, not just children. So I don't know where this is going to go. I am on Medicaid, and according to the big, beautiful bill that passed, all gender affirming care is being stripped from Medicaid in 2027. So I don't know what I'm going to do at that point. Try to find some ways around it. I'm still looking for a job and hopefully get a job with insurance that still covers it. But a lot of these insurance companies are getting a lot of pressure from the government to not cover it. It's insane. It's ridiculous. I stock up on my estrogen. I don't go through it as quickly because my dosages are such that I already have a couple of extras saved, and next month I'll have a third, and I make them last because my dosage is reasonable, and the vials have a lot in them. So I will continue on my journey no matter what happens. And let's say all gender affirming care stops. That's not stopping me from living my life. It's a simple fact. And I will support all the other trans women out there and what they're going through. A lot of people are struggling right now. We're all struggling financially right now, since I've been out of work the last couple of years, especially. But I'm trying to stay optimistic. I'm not, because it doesn't do any good to live in fear. What do they say in Dune, Paul Atreides? Fear is the mind killer. Yeah, it'll mess you up if you're constantly living in a state of fear. I'm not afraid of a lot of things. I'm not afraid of dying because of what I believe, not religion, but spiritually. I know no matter what, I'm going to be okay. And if bad things continue to happen, you know what? They're learning opportunities. They're lessons for me to learn from. I'm going to continue to grow until I die. And that's just the way it is. And for the rest of my life, I will be the woman you see here, but better looking. We'll see how that goes. In any case, I've rambled enough, but I wanted to get all of that out in one long video. I want to start a new podcast. I want to start interviewing and talking with other trans women about their own experiences. I know there's a couple of them out there. A lot of them focus on the younger dolls. I'm older. I would like to talk to people in their 40s and up. So if anyone who sees this is willing to do an interview with me, we'll set it up and we'll do a podcast. If you see my other podcast, Transdimensional Realities, it's over on my other channel, The Shadow Parlor, but where I talk about all things weird and paranormal because that's my hobby. Uh, it always was and always will be. I'm still a nerd and a geek, even though I'm transitioning. So, anyway, thank you all. If you've listened till the end, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And I will continue to be giving updates as they come. And we'll see how things go. But in the meantime, as I like to say, be good humans, and we'll talk to you soon.